let's start with Rory McIlroy. What I find so fascinating about Rory, we've got some clips, we'll get to them in a second, is just how aware he is, right? I mean, he's obviously well aware he's going for the career Grand Slam. He's well aware of what that would mean in his place in the game. He's a golf historian. It's just there. It almost seems like he's doing himself a disservice because he knows so much about his place in history as he's trying to make history.
Yeah, I mean, you almost feel like he's scrolling on rickrungood.com, looking at his strokes gain metrics as he answers these questions.
Might be.
He might be. He knows this stuff as if he's an analyst, not a player, which is kind of cool to see. So I thought Rory today was, like you said, Rick, very aware. I think there were a couple of things that really stood out to me that sounded really positive. One of them being how much he likes coming here, and he goes to Augusta National because it's fun. That's one of the reasons why he's played 81 holes here in the last 2.5 weeks. And now it's 90, right? So he did it because of the fun. And I have been wondering ever since his 64 in the final round last year, if he would be able to re-emulate that feeling of fun that he described right after that round. As in when Rory finished that round, those comments that he made about this tournament being so important for him for this year and for the next Masters, would that last throughout the year, or was that just a feeling of emotion because he just holed a bunker shot and the crowd went crazy and he came in second and shot 64 and had so much fun? And it really seems like he's embraced that throughout this year and embrace that, especially coming into this week, which I think was my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, let's continue down that road, Patrick. I want to get your thoughts on this. Rory talked about scar tissue, experience, how one weighs against another. I think we have a clip here, Josh.
What's the difference between accumulating, experience and perhaps accumulating a little bit of scar tissue?
I think you have to go through everything, right? Like I don't think not every experience is going to be a good experience. I think that would lead to a pretty boring life. You have to learn from those challenges and learn from some of that scar tissue that's built up. But, I felt last year that I maybe shed some of that scar tissue and felt like I sort of made a breakthrough. So, I'm feeling as sort of relaxed as I ever have coming in here, just in terms of, feel like my game's in a pretty good place, and I know the place just about as well as anyone's.
Shedding scar tissue and having a breakthrough, two things that I heard there, Patrick, from Rory.
Yeah, just to kind of echo Greg's point about the final shot on the 72nd hole, he's going to have to parlay that feeling into Thursday in particular. 4 straight over par opening rounds. Did Patrick Reed break him in 2018? That was the last time he was really in contention at the Masters. He wasn't really a factor there in the back nine. And he talks about scar tissue. He knows his place in the game, like you said, Rick. He knows everything that's up for grabs, what's at stake. And he's pretty much played himself out of these last 4 Masters super early. And so he has been able to shed those expectations. We've seen it with all these backdoor top 5s, top 10s, where he's on the razor's edge and he falls over. Okay, I'm probably not going to win. I'm going to freewheel it, turn in 30, get everyone jazzed up. Maybe he can do it, but he doesn't. So the real thing for me for Rory McIlroy and scar tissue is, what are those expectations going to be like if he opens with a round of 69 on Thursday? Because we have not seen him in that spot in a pretty long time, where it's, holy crap, Rory McIlroy is 3rd on the leaderboard after 18 holes. This is the moment where he usually messes up. So for me, it's, can he play like a kid, like he's having fun, like Greg said, when those expectations are there even deeper into the tournament and when they're even more realistic? Because we haven't seen that in a while.
Patrick, do you know how many times he has broken 70 in the opening round?
I just know it's 4 straight over par.
I think he's only done it 2 or 3 times.
I've got it right here. I've actually, nice little plug here, according to thegolfrecord.com, which is now live, which I've been working on building.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was live like as of 15 minutes ago.
I was going to say I didn't get an email, or at least I didn't check my email.
Yeah. He has broken 70 just twice. Happened in 2011. That didn't end very well. And it happened in 2018, which also did not end all that well. But, you know, those were the 2 years that he played in the final pairing on Sunday. And I think that that's not a coincidence. Rory's a front runner. He always has been. I think he probably, like, if he wins majors in the future, that's probably how he'll win them. I think, Rick, the thing that I am, and I think I'm going to try to write about this for Wednesday for CBSSports.com, Rory has been sort of waging this battle against Liv for the last year or whatever. But for this week, Rory's kind of forever war at Augusta is with himself. And that's what happens when Tiger and Jack are giving you green jackets and you don't actually have one yet. It becomes a war with yourself. And I asked him about that today, and he was like, yeah, it's emotional and it's mental. It's not physical, obviously. I think everybody knows that. And I think it is above everything else. I think it's fascinating to watch athletes, but not just athletes, anybody be kind of in a war with themselves, because you can talk about, like, let's just take Lamar Jackson trying to get to the Super Bowl. You're like, well, the defense of the other team, like that's what turned the tide. Like that's what kind of kept him from doing that. If Rory doesn't win the Masters ever, it's only on him, right? Like it's just, and that's unique to golf, but it's also unique to Rory, I think, at this place. And I think it's a fascinating thing to watch. And the way he ended his interview on Tuesday, I've got the quote right here. He says, "I don't need to do anything differently this week. Which maybe probably need to open in the 60s. I go out and play the way I know I can, get myself in with a chance to win. And then, you know, those last couple of hours on Sunday, this got me kind of fired up. Those last couple of hours on Sunday, it's not about whether the course sets up well for you. It's about who can hold it together the best." And that's what I want to see, is like, what is Sunday afternoon with Rory in this sort of like war with his own like internal war? What does that look like? How does that play out? That to me is the most is the most potentially fascinating thing that could happen at this Masters.
Yeah, I really enjoyed your question. I really enjoyed his presser in general. He had a couple of other thoughts here, Greg. I want to hit a couple of them. Let's play the clip about playing 9 holes with Brooksy, Josh.
You know, it's not as if I don't see, you know, some of these guys at home on weeks off. You know, I see Brooks quite a lot. I see DJ quite a lot. You know, we sort of all practice at the same place. So, yeah, but as you said, I think the more face time you get with people, the more comfortable you become in some way. I think I'm going to go play 9 holes with Brooks here in a little bit. So it's look, and there's so many different, it's a very nuanced situation, and there's different dynamics, and you know, it's okay to, you know, get on with Brooks and DJ and maybe not get on with some other guys that went to it, right? Like it's a, you know, interpersonal relationships. That's just how it goes. But, you know, this week in this tournament is way bigger than any of that, I feel. And it's just great that all the best players in the world are together again for the first time in what seems to be quite a while.
Interpersonal relationships, making pie. Rory ran the gamut on Tuesday. That comfortability, Greg, will look like Tom Kim and Sam Burns at 1:48 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday. That's the grouping for the first 2 rounds. And Rory also, you know, to echo the thoughts around getting off to a good start, he was also asked, like, hey, you know, only Tiger's the only guy who like wins and is not inside the top 10 after the first round. And he described Augusta National, especially for the whole locations on Sunday, as kind of more difficult to chase from. So if you are in it, you're in it. If you're not, it's hard to make up ground.
You know, this is something that he spoke about last year, kind of, I would say, at length, really. He spoke about the conservative strategy. Well, maybe he didn't speak about it at length, but we certainly did. That conservative strategy getting out of the gate. And while he played a wonderful round last year, I think he shot 73. I think 69 was certainly on the table. He hit the right shots and didn't really get anything out of the round. But what's so fascinating about this, when you start to look at all the statistics of where the winners are after 18 holes, where the winners are after 36 holes, and how often they come from the top 5 on Sunday, it almost makes you feel like you got to chase from the first tee on Thursday, right? And getting up into that position through some aggressive play early seems like it would be somewhat important when you look at all those numbers. But so I'm fascinated to see how he employs this conservative strategy, which he's talked about and hinted at many times over the last couple of years. You know, he said greens and regulation is the most important thing. Knowing when to pick your spots and being patient is a really important thing. Tiger also mentioned the guys that win here are patient players. And so I think that will be a fascinating concept. And when I think about that kind of strategy and getting the most out of that round, when you play patient, it all comes down to what you do on and around the greens. You miss a shot by a yard and end up in a bunker and have an easy up and down, you got to get it up and down. When you hit it on the green into the fat part of the green and you avoid the hazards and avoid short siding yourself, you got a 2-putt. And when you do have one of those opportunities like a par 5, you got to make birdie. And that's how you can piece together a 69. But it has to be a match of execution and strategy for sure.
Greg, 12 of the last 15 Masters winners have been in the 60s after round 1.
Yeah.
And you got to go back. I think it's since 2005. Everybody's been in the top 10 after round 1, other than, well, I think it was Tiger in 05 and then Tiger in 2019. We're not in the top 10. Everybody else has been inside the top 10 that went on to win, which I think, to your point about Augusta, it's hard to, and somebody said that, maybe it was Roy or maybe it was Tiger today, said that just chasing, I think you just said this also, is just, it's really, it's hard.
Yeah, Rory said that.
And I'm curious about, you were saying that Rory, his strategy is to be more conservative. Did he say that in his press? I don't remember him saying that, or was it a different interview?
That was last year. And we spoke about it beforehand. He said, you know, the guys that have won here, and I'm paraphrasing when I say that, but he talked specifically about a conservative strategy last year.
Well, and I think that, like, I heard an interview with him yesterday on Sky Sports where he was like, you need to be more aggressive. And it's like, well, I don't know if he knows like what, I think he's like talked himself into both sides of that sort of idea, right? Of being aggressive or being conservative. I think my question for you, Greg, is, remember in 2021 when Phil won the PGA, and at some point on Saturday afternoon, you're like, hey, this event, no matter what happens, this is about Phil. Like that's it. Like that's the whole deal.
Yeah.
What does Rory have to do for this tournament, this Masters, to become like, whatever happens, it's about him? Like for you personally.
For me personally, I think if Rory shoots a 70 or better on Thursday,
that's all it would take.
That's lofty. Yeah. That's wow.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it probably takes another good round on Friday, right?
Okay,
I say, you know, after one round, it's hard to say unless he's the leader. If he's the leader on Thursday, you know, the event turns into a Rory show. No question about it. It's a Rory show now.
I was going to say if he leads on the back nine on Sunday, like if he steps on 10 tee with the lead.
No, I think it's earlier than that.
I'm with you, Rick.
I think it's earlier than that too.
You're a 51-year-old Phil Mickelson to a 33-year-old Rory McIlroy with ample opportunities to recapture at the Slam.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but it's not like he's 23. I mean, he how many like
he has to bear the burden of shooting an opening round 68 and this thing becoming him.
I disagree with the first round thing. Okay. I think it's at least a Friday night lead.
No, I mean,
I'll agree with that.
Does it depend at all? I mean, what if Rory's 3 shots back on Friday night and it's a bunch of guys that you're not familiar with, right?
Yeah.
You know, like who's ahead of him if he's not in the lead?
I could get to Friday night if he has like a 4-shot lead on Friday night. Then it is absolutely the Rory story. Like it doesn't matter what happens; it's all about Rory.
I just think it's so much of the Rory story now. The closer he is into contention, and I agree, it's after. It's a lead, a significant lead on Thursday, or being in contention Friday that I think would really make it all about Rory to me. And that's in large part because it's all about Rory to me right now. Right. So now it just kind of kicks that down the road a little bit. It's still all about Rory.
Yeah. Greg's and when he tees off on Thursday morning, it's all about Rory.
He doesn't. Well, you're basically saying like, as long as he doesn't play himself out of the tournament.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Now,
Greg's like, if he signs a scorecard on Thursday,
it's good enough for me.
No, if he's going to, miss the cut, it's not going to. It'll obviously fade away from the Rory story very quickly. But anywhere near contention, that's the name that I have circled.
Well, contention is not what the greatest golfer of all time is thinking about for Rory. Play it, Josh.
What would you say to him as he tries to join that exclusive club this week?
Well, he will. It's a matter of time. Rory has the talent. He has the game. He has all the tools to win here. It's just a matter of time. It takes. I mean, a lot of things have to happen to win at this golf course. A lot of things have to go right, and I think Rory has shown over the years that he's learned how to play this golf course. You just have to understand how to play it, and he's been there. I mean, last year he made a great run, put himself there. But I think that it's just a matter of time, whether it's this year or next or whenever it comes. He will get it done, and he will have the career Grand Slam. It's just that what year it'll be. It will definitely happen.
So I thought this was interesting because Tiger was not. This wasn't a situation where he had to say that. There are some questions where it's like you're sort of forced into say, like, giving an answer that, like, when Tiger's asked, "Are you? Do you show up thinking you have a chance to win?" Like, you gonna say no? Like, right. I mean, but this wasn't a situation where. At least I don't think. I can go back and look at the question.
He wasn't asked, do you think Rory will win the career Grand Slam? He was asked, what are you telling him, or something of that nature, which is that's a much more open-ended question.
Yeah, if somebody could pull that up, that would be awesome, because I'm pretty sure it was open-ended and he just kind of went right into it. But it's interesting because I think that Fred Couples did this on Monday also, where he was asked about Rory because they played a practice round with Couples, Tiger, Rory, and Tom Kim on what a crew on Monday. And Fred Couples is like, I mean, he just got to play better than everybody and then beat like 3 guys on Sunday. And you're like, man, it seems so easy. Like the way that Fred Couples talks about it. So I don't know. I just thought it was interesting that Tiger was like pretty aggressive about saying that in a situation where he didn't really have to.
And I think too, it would be like it's only a matter of time thing. There are so many legends in this game, including Sam Snead, right? Including Arnold Palmer, guys you would think for sure they'll win a US Open or win a PGA or, win a Master. It is for sure. You think that these guys are going to do it and they don't. And I find it fascinating that in the 5 guys who have won the career Grand Slam, they've never done it beyond their third attempt.
Yeah.
It's been 3 attempts or less. This is Rory's 9th attempt. I just wonder, you used the word burden earlier, Rick? The burden seems like it's growing and growing and growing.
That Patrick is the privilege of being Tiger Woods, to be able to say, oh, he'll get it done eventually. Don't worry about it. No big deal. Like, yeah, easy for you to say, Mr. 15 of these things.
I honestly think he's trying to almost light a fire under Rory's ass. I don't know if it's needed, but maybe like try to push him over the edge even more.
Then he should have said, hell no, I'll never win one.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's like everyone looks up to what Tiger says. It's as good as the Bible pretty much for some people. But it's like what he said didn't – like we all know Rory McIlroy can play Augusta National well. And it's just – I wonder if – I assume he has, but like has Rory picked Tiger's brain about it as much? I mean, it's completely different. Tiger completed it when he was quite younger, not when he was in his mid-30s. But I would love to know kind of the interactions. I know everyone would. We'd pay $1 million to see them talk about Rory's mental struggles with completing the career Grand Slam. But also to Greg's point about the 3 mark, I mean, Augusta's the only one. You come back every year. The ghosts are there in the trees. They're haunting Rory McIlroy every single year when he comes back onto the properties. And that just makes it that much more difficult. So Tiger, like I understand the want or need to blow this Tiger quote kind of up, not out of proportion, so to speak, but it's nothing new. Rory McIlroy knows how to play Augusta National. He shot 64 in the final round last year. Like he's been in contention multiple times. It's just mentally, like Kyle's question to him, emotionally, how is he going to handle it? And he hasn't handled it great.
Well, and I think my last thing on this is the argument for Rory, and I think about this a lot, not just with him, but with any of these guys, because there's only 4 of these a year. And you think about like, what's the Monday after the Masters like when you haven't done it again? Like that weight of time that's like weighing on you, where you're like, oh my gosh, like another year, I got to wait another year. I'm going to be another year older. What am I even going to be playing like in a year? And I think the argument for Rory is sort of ironically the Open Championship, because he went out in I mean, the weight of that Open, you guys felt it on TV. It was probably even more prominent from like on the grounds, like being there, of like how many people were like begging him to win that tournament. And he didn't shoot 75 on set. He didn't like, he stayed in his world, and he didn't like make putt. He didn't like put a score together on Sunday, but he didn't like wilt. And I do wonder if like having gone through that, because that was kind of the first time in a while that he's been like, hey, Rory's going to win a major this week. Like that hasn't really happened that often over the last 8 years, right? And I do wonder if going through that situation, maybe even more so than holding the bunker shot on 18 at Augusta, has him like sort of mentally ready to take on those last 2, 3, 4 hours if he's in it this year at the Masters.
Yeah, that felt like a season-long culmination that he was just going to win the Open Championship. That's what was going to happen. We had all come to terms with it. It was going to happen. It obviously did not.